Uosikkinen's In the Pocket is sponsored by the School of Rock Main Line. I'd like to thank the School of Rock Main Line, located at 511 Old Lancaster Road in Berwyn. You can visit their website at schoolofrock.com. Ask for Dave Marsh or Rick Allison.
Everyone, welcome to the David Uosikkinen. I can't even say my name. David Uosikkinen In the Pocket podcast.
Wait a minute.
Yes. Welcome to the David Uosikkinen. Uosikkinen, or I could say Uosikkinen, but then it really messes people up.
I thought it was Uosikkinen.
Well, you have the American version, Uosikkinen. Uosikkinen, and that's almost Americanized, and. But, that's it's so many different versions. France Smith has been calling me David Uosikkinen for
Well, go ahead with the intro. I interrupted.
David. Well, listen, welcome everybody to the In the Pocket podcast. And today is going to be a very special In the Pocket podcast. It's Wednesday. Is this December 10th today? I mean, November 10th today? November 10th. Yes. November 10th. Right. Let's not get us into December yet. And I'm really excited about today because not only do I have my buddy Freddie B with me, who was always a blast to hang with, I got a guest today that is a very, very important person in my life, and just a wonderful human being, but a ridiculous artist, musician, producer, humanitarian. He's got it all. He's got a philosopher. He's my man, my good friend, the one and only David Prater, coming from Colorado. Brother, how you doing, man?
Thank you. 8,000 feet.
Yeah, baby. Whoa. Yeah.
Hey, how cold was it there today in Philly when you woke up?
It's actually nice today. I think it's going to be in the 60s today. 60s. We've been having ridiculous weather here, man. It was
18 here this morning.
Are you kidding me?
No,
You're kidding me.
Well, we've had snow on the ground for 2 weeks.
You're kidding me.
No.
Wow. So I mean, you can run the gamut from. I mean, you could wake up one day and it could be 75 degrees there. Like it's like wild.
You can go to the bathroom and get done with your business and come back out, and the weather's changed 20 degrees.
Wow. I mean, that's crazy. Well, I'm going to ask you why.
We're at a point where we can see all the weather coming over the mountains, and it's just like, oh, here it comes.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to ask you about why Colorado, but you've been all over the world, lived all over the world. Freddie, I got to tell you, Prater was always like, I almost seemed to want to know what he was doing on a weekly basis all through my lifetime, because he was one of these guys that I met. I guess I was probably early 20s when I met David, and he was already making inroads and was unique in even a unique culture at the time. When David's into something, he's into it and deep into it, passionate about it. Like, and the thing I'm going to bring up is the cassette bag.
Oh,
dude, the cassette bag.
Yeah.
Prater recorded everything, and he carried that bag. And, before you had multi-instrumentalists and guys were great. And David was a scary good drummer. I mean, like a beastly drummer, hit that snare drum, but had chops. And, the Prater shuffle was something Prater and I were talking about it this morning. We had a quick phone call, and I told him I saw Billy. Well, we're talking to Richie.
Oh, the other buddy, yeah.
But I saw Billy Bremner last night, because we played with him last night.
How was it?
Oh, it was incredible. And his drummer is a Swedish guy named Peter Sundal, and he had a beautiful shuffle, and he had a great left hand. And
really?
the best, and I think a left hand that Prater would see it and go, yeah, he's got it down.
Yeah, he's doing that on purpose.
Yeah, because Prater had the greatest. At the time, I never ever saw a guy play a shuffle like David. Because that left hand was like the right hand, and maybe the right hand wouldn't even be doing as much as the left hand, and the left hand would be doing things that were so articulate and accenting and just incredible. And he played with such ferocity that it was like, holy shit, what is that? You know,
Well, let me say something about that. Do you remember the intro to Rock and Roll Led Zeppelin?
Yeah. I teach it. Yeah.
That left hand's dragging like
right.
Yeah, well, but see, the thing that David did that I always loved, that I really, it scared me into getting good. Like, I got to learn this, because I'll give you one specific day. David, do you remember one day I was playing with Eric at the club in Levittown? Vernon's.
I remember that waitress too.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. Prater comes in, and I say, hey, Prater, Dave, you want to sit in? So they do, I forget what, I think they did the Detroit Wheels.
I think we did, yeah.
Jenny
The
Take
medley.
a Ride.
Yeah.
The medley. And David, the drums, I looked at my drum set and I was amazed that it was still standing. But let me just say that he wasn't bashing Freddie. He was driving the band.
Yep.
And I remember a friend of mine, a girl that I knew, really attractive girl, fine. She turns to me, she goes, oh my God, you can't do that, can you? I said, not like that. Because it was like, because I could play, but that guy, it was like, and I'll tell you, it was one of the most, to this day, I remember, because David went at it like, there's never, and when he's playing, I don't want to make you blush or anything, but when he's playing, it's like he's playing. But it's like he's in the ring with Muhammad Ali, and there ain't no messing around. He's down and he's gonna dig in, and you better be at your best when you're playing with that dude. Yeah. It was really something, And David, and listen, this morning I was just kind of I got behind, and when we do these shows, I got to put together this thing called this web page that the guys drop the files into and everything, and because I forgot to do it, I get up this morning, and so I'm looking at your. I forgot about some of the great things that you did in your career. Like, I forgot about driving school. I forgot about driving school. I forgot about that. Like, Danny D'Souza, my buddy Danny D'Souza, was a keyboard player who was a friend of ours, a bass player friend of ours that we know, and he turned me on to David playing a song that later on Carlos Santana had a hit with called "I'm Winning." David's but David's rhythm track on the original was it was like his drums, even back, it cut through. Right. I remember hearing it going like, and Danny said to me, listen to this drum track. And I mean, we oh yeah, David, you should go back and listen to it. That thing with Nona Hendrix was a thing of beauty. Oh, wow. And you maybe played 2 or 3 fills in it. It's just the way you hit the bass drum and the way you hit the drums, and the way, he was always on top of that, drilling holes into the drums, trying to make the drums sound better, trying to do things. But I mean, just somebody that people would say it's like he was just over the top with the drum stuff, trying to do things, but it was something that I admired, and it was like, I want to be that guy. I was like, I want to be him.
You remember?
I want to be Prater. Yeah,
we were Steven Stars on the balcony.
Yeah,
and I was sitting up there.
Yeah.
And you came up and said, "Hey, man."
Hey, man.
I think you had seen us. I don't know. Maybe we toured for a little while with Blondie.
Yes.
We played Walnut Street Theater.
Yes. Yeah, I didn't make that one.
Well, anyway, you came up and were talking to me, and I'm thinking, who's this guy? He's a drummer. And so, but you were just the cutest, most personable guy to deal with. And so, we started talking, and then I'd kind of see it from now and then, doing other things around town. And before I knew it, I had to leave. I mean, I lived in Upper Darby back from 77 until about 80.
Yeah.
Wow.
Over there by the Tower Theater, 31 Wellington Road.
Yeah.
Right around the corner.
And you always were into something cool. Listen, what I even forgot about, like, when I mentioned you've been all around the world, you really spent a long time living, like, you were the first guy I knew. I knew some guys that went to the UK,
Mm-hmm.
But when you moved to Germany,
Germany.
and
West,
you
during the Cold War.
and you lived
Wow.
there
Mhm.
before the wall came down.
Wow.
You were there.
Long before that.
He
almost
was
10
playing.
years.
You were playing with
Jeez.
Roy in Nektar.
Right.
And you know, David was always like about 5 steps ahead of everyone, you know, musically on a lot of levels, educating, like when I talked to him, educating you into what, you know, what's hip and what he's doing, and, you know, thoughts on life and politics and people. I mean, just listen, I get on the phone. So if I get on the phone with Prater, it's like get ready, you know, because it's almost like I want to record it because I want to go back and hear, because we get into some things and just deep, a lot of things over the years.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
But listen, just going back, I mean, you one day just decided, after like making inroads into New York, playing with Nona, being the guy, you just went to Germany to Nektar. And I always wondered, how did that Nektar thing even come about? What happened there?
They were a British band.
Yeah. Oh,
that they all played. They were probably, let me think, Roy died about, yeah, he would have been a 72, 73. So he was 6 or 7 years older. So he actually played in the place called the Reeperbahn. Remember that in Hamburg?
Oh, yeah.
I spent a lot of
It's
time
not
there.
like it used to be.
Yeah, no.
But British bands could go over there and actually get paid to play. And it was, you know, it was, you could make a living.
The docks, yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so they came to Germany, and then they started, you know, playing their own stuff. Everything was obviously, there's a lot of hash back in that day. You know, that was there wasn't, you know, hard narcotics. Well, there's probably heroin, but
Yeah.
people weren't into that. It was mainly like just hash and pot, stuff like that, and maybe mushrooms.
Yeah.
And so they were playing in. You know, they knew the only way that they could make it was to move to Germany. And they, after a while, I think they were based out of Frankfurt, but then, you know, stepping forward years later, their management was in Frankfurt, Germany.
Yeah.
And so
I remember you lived there for quite a bit.
Carmine and I were roommates.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, he literally, I was on one side of the door and he was on the other.
Yeah.
And we just slept on the floor, you know.
Wow. I mean, committed to making, you know, greatness.
Well, what happened is we realized that now in the late 70s, that was a terrible time in the music industry because nobody was getting signed. I think there was kind of like a semi-recession during that period. So anyway, we weren't getting any action trying to get A&R people to come out to our showcases and stuff like that. I mean, this is when the Knack had that song, My Sharona.
Yeah.
That's, you know, and
I love that drum track, by the way. When I listen to it, I love that guy. Oh my God!
Great.
So what happened is the management said, "Yeah, we're going to move you to Germany, and we're going to kind of get back in, kind of like a Hooters thing, you know."
Yeah.
Because they were huge in Germany and Europe at one time. They were like Yes or Genesis had a humongous light show.
Yeah, wow.
And so we went over there, and I lived there for a year, and we toured in the fall of '80, and then I left in '81 because it had really run its course. I mean, and I knew that I didn't want to stay there 10 years chasing the dream in Germany.
Right.
You know, but I love Germany. I love Germans. I love the experience. But that was an interesting place for me because we lived in this big kind of industrial commune, and it was a film studio as well. And so I used to be able to go down and practice and make as much noise as I wanted.
Yeah.
And I started, I'll never forget, there was one time I set a timer right there, and I said, okay, I'm going to do a single stroke roll to failure. In other words, what they call like in training, like when if you go, oh, that's failure.
Yeah.
You know, as opposed to this isn't, you know. So I was going to play as long as I could, you know, doing a single stroke roll.
It still sounds good, Fred. Hear that?
So anyway, I spent a lot of time just kind of, you know, streamlining things that I had been wanting to do and never had the time to do because living on the East Coast, you're either living in a big apartment building or a row house or something, and you may not be able to make racket. Playing drums, guitars, keyboards, that's different.
Right.
So anyway, Carlos, when I had to play the solo in Soul Sacrifice, that was
with Santana. But the people who are listening, David played with Santana. So
that was in the summer. That was in August of '76.
Yeah.
But that's I'll tell you that story, but it's a long.
The
point I'm making is that playing in cover bands and club bands, 5 or 6 nights a week, that's not really, if you're going to do a solo or something like that, you need to practice the solo. You need to figure out what you're going to do.
Exactly. I figured that. I went through that. I've never soloed, but this year I started, and Rob helped me.
It's just this year?
Yeah, Rob just helped me because I didn't want to do it, but we produced one. Now I like the fact of using samples and messing around and that, making it entertainment. So let me ask you something. So obviously, doing the Santana gig for a little while, did you get? You knew Michael Shreve, didn't you? You knew Michael.
No. And it's an interesting story. So when I auditioned the first day, I was the first drummer in, and I found out about it when they were loading in at SIR.
Yeah.
And I saw one of the roadies, and I said, "Hey, what are you guys doing? Is this, Carlos? Where's Carlos?" And they said, "Oh, we're here. He's auditioning a new band."
Oh.
And I've told the story so many times, but he was looking for a singer, and he wanted also a rhythm guitarist, somebody that could kind of play chords behind him. Around the time that they did Winning, I'm Winning, because Carlos did it. And
I know.
The singer at that time was also a rhythm guitar player.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And so they wanted that, and they wanted a bass player, and they wanted congas, timbales, and drums. So, that's how I got that gig.
Yeah. You went in there, just
so what happened, talking about Mike Shreve, what happened is I went in, it was brutal. I was playing at the San Francisco International Airport at some lounge. And so you played until 2, and I had to break my drums down, throw them into my Tradesman 100 Dodge van that you guys used when I went to.
I rode in that car before that van. I know it. I know it.
So what happened is we started playing at one point, and I remember I got all my drums set up. You know what it's like? It's like, those are right, some a little closer hi-hat. I'm good.
Yeah.
And then you look around like, okay, what are we doing? And Carlos, they were already playing.
Yeah.
And Carlos, he likes to switch instruments a lot. So I played a lot of guitar back then.
Yeah, and a great guitar player. That was your you're burning. Like, oh my God, listen to play guitar.
So what happened is after one rehearsal, he rode in with me, and then we rode back in my van. He lived in Mill Valley. And so what happened is we went to his house, and he said, okay, there was a guy named Tom Crucier, Juan's brother. Juan is from Rat, Juan Crucier. And they're Cuban. And so Tom was a good singer, and he was auditioning with Carlos. And Carlos wanted me to play guitar. So here I am in Carlos's studio being built. I'm playing out of a really nice boogie amp, playing a Strat, and I'm like, I was in high school 2 years ago.
With David Sidecheck.
Yeah. So anyway, about Michael Shreve. So when I went in to play at SIR, we started playing. And that was back when people actually jammed. Jamming to me is not playing, hey, Mustang Sally? Yeah, okay, let's do it. Right. You just start playing, and somebody says, what do you think of that? You like that chord? Okay, before you know it. And Tom Coster was in the band, and he was a phenomenal musician. He was actually, I think he may have been Armenian. He played accordion as well, really well.
Oh, wow.
So anyway, there was this ferocious, if you've ever played with guys from the street, like Raul Rico, did you ever meet Raul?
No.
percussion.
Well, that guy was built like Marvin Hagler. I mean, he.
Oh,
was,
wait a minute! Oh, no! Maybe he was he playing with him in '82?
Oh yeah.
Okay, then I met him. I did meet him. I wasn't sure. I got a photo of him. Yeah.
From the day he came in.
Yeah.
In '76.
Yeah.
He was there until he died.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Oh.
So anyway, we were playing, and then Journey, the original Journey with no Steve Perry, was in the big room at SIR.
Right.
Michael Shreve and Automatic Man and Bayete and all that.
They
were in another room.
Wow.
You turned me on to those guys too.
Yeah, Automatic Man.
Love them. Bayete, yes.
And then, I'm not done with it. Mingo Lewis.
Oh, wow.
He had his solo project, and he's, so now there's 3 bands, and in walks Greg Rowley. He had this big mane of hair, and I'm saying, that's Greg Rowley. And then Ainsley Dunbar comes walking in, and there's and then, and I'm going like, and they're staying, and so everybody was in the back smoking cigarettes, just bullshit. Hey, are you guys going to be in town? Yeah, okay. And everybody's visiting, and we're playing. And after a while, now this is nuts. After, we played for at least a good 30, 45 minutes. Just jamming.
Wow. Jamming.
And there'd be one part to where he'd take his guitar off and go over to bongos. And so now it's a rhythm orgy.
Yeah.
And so Shreve walks in.
Yeah.
Ainsley's there.
Wow.
Tower Power walks in.
Oh, so Garibaldi's there. Then.
All
wow.
all
the cats.
There was one more. They were called Rubicon.
Okay.
Oh, I remember them.
Jack Blades and basically the bassist for Night Ranger. Those guys.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm looking at this. And I'm just thinking, man, this is unbelievable. But it felt great. I mean, I'll just never forget that first day when Carlos stepped in the middle of the room and he looks over at me and he puts his guitar on. He had that old Yamaha double cutaway. Yeah. And he just goes, and it was just kind of like we hit the hyperdrive button. And so we played for a while and then we stopped. And then this guy comes walking in, and to this guy was like Moses to me. Yeah. Who other than Bill Graham?
Wow.
Because he was, he was Winterland, that whole thing.
Yeah,
Bill
sure.
Graham.
Yeah.
And he comes in and he comes and sits right next to me. And so I'm playing. There's Bill Graham, and he's looking at me like, yeah, keep going. And I'm just thinking, this is not happening.
Yeah.
I've done acid, but this is not a flashback. So that's how it started, and that's with Mike Shreve. Because Mike, when he did that solo in Soul Sacrifice in the Woodstock film, I just thought that was the most courageous thing I'd ever seen.
Yeah.
A white guy out there, and all
I know.
Dave Brown, he's a black dude from Oakland, and then Chipito, he is on, I think, Guatemala or Nicaragua.
Yeah.
And then Michael Carabello. So, it was a racially intensely mixed.
Yeah. Yep. And you hung with these guys and played with these guys and did so many amazing things. I mean, you've lived a life of, like, to me, it seems like you've done so much. And what always really fascinated me about you, David, is that you knew when it was time to go.
Yes.
He knew that he never hung to. It was like, okay, go on, next thing. It was always the art that pushed him. And because not only these great bands, I mean, the guy, I played with Kenny last night, Kenny Aronson,
Kenny and I go way back.
He played with Brian Setzer with Kenny, and I saw some gigs. I because it's like, okay, I see other guys play with Setzer, and they're great drummers. But I said I had to see what Prater did with him. Because I knew that it was going to be a different animal. It was just going to be like, wow, So you got
Tommy Burns.
Tommy Burns was playing guitar. I love Tommy. He's a good friend.
He's been there for years.
Yeah. A good guy. And Kenny and Brian Setzer, and
Chuck Lavelle.
Yeah, and Chuck Lavelle. An amazing band. And I got to tell you, and I love this what you told me about Setzer recently. I don't know if you remember, about a year ago we were talking about Brian. And David said to me, the dude just keeps on upping his game. he's like learning, you were talking about how Setzer's playing guitar and just even better than he was before.
Oh,
just
absolutely.
get better.
Yeah.
He'll give guys credit. It's like amazing. Now, what you've most recently been known for, I mean, musical things, you did Baby Grand, you did great bands that you've played with, and then you became a world-class. Your producing was different than, because I remember you talking about bussing tracks and doing things like, you always knew about the gear, like 10 steps about every, analog stuff, getting the sound. A world-class producer. You produce Dream Theater, which is like, I teach at the School of Rock. I got like they got kids there. I mean, Dream Theater is like everybody wants to be Mike Portnoy. They all want to be.
Careful what you ask for, because you just might get it.
Prater and I would talk about, and sometimes because he produced so many records, I'd reach out to David. I said, well, what about this guy and what are they doing? He was always frank and honest with me about stuff, but you did records and from Dream Theater to like one of my favorite records.
Well, it started with Firehouse.
Firehouse, but one of my favorite.
I first got involved with Sony.
Hey, listen, Heroes and Zeros with Glen is one of my favorite all-time. That record you put on, and Glen, he sounds amazing. You produced a record that sounds sonically like, off the map.
David, do you know that we recorded that in a moldy, damp, dingy basement? It was 156 Valley Road in Montclair.
Yeah.
And so, when Glen said, I want to do the record with you, he was really into Prince. And he read everything. Glen's so brilliant.
He is brilliant.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And so,
what a tandem when you were with him. I thought, because I knew Glen, and I'm thinking Prater and Glen Burtnik. Wow. I knew that was something great.
We had a reign of terror there for about 2 years.
I bet. Look out, ladies.
Yeah, but what happened is, I had a Nakai 12 track.
Yeah.
And I had done some demos that wound up, heard it in the radio, Stupid Boys, Walls Came Down. I think there was 4 songs are from my demos on that record.
Wow.
Man.
And that's why those triggers, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed.
Triggers back then, I don't even know how you dealt with the latency and all those things that you did.
I was doing triggers in the very early 80s.
Yeah, you were always into that kind of stuff. But, so you had a relationship with, was it Mike Cap? Was it
Michael Kaplan?
Michael Kaplan.
Oh, God, I love Michael.
Well, hey, David, here's a 6 degrees of separate. Freddie played drums with John Kuzma.
You did?
Yeah, and Michael was a fan. That's how I knew. He passed away, didn't he? Or is he still alive?
Michael?
No, he's still alive? All right.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
But that's how I met him, through playing with John.
Yeah. God bless. Rest. Well, John passed away.
Yes,
he was my best. He was my best friend.
Was it leukemia or something?
John died. It was just an I think it was an accident. Medication, and he was going through a tough time at the time, and we were hanging a bit. At the very end, we got to really spend some quality time together. But he was going through a tough period. I think back then, even over the last 10 years or even 5 years, the awareness of mental, I'm not saying he was mentally ill, but I think he dealt with a really heavy depression. And John was the last guy. Right. He is a very prideful guy. He was going to tell you that he was depressed, but I knew John, and John wasn't a guy that was going to be pushed around. And he was doing some side jobs, and some things happened that were really out of character for John. Like somebody, one day somebody told me some guy was like bullying him on the job, and going like, "What? You can't be talking about John."
No,
that shit ain't going to happen.
He wouldn't stand for that very long.
No, not very long at all. So John was an amazing person, but David, at the time, I thought maybe you were going to end up producing him at something, or I know they talked.
I saw him one day. I spent a lot of time at Black Rock, 51 West 52nd, and walking. And Michael was always there was a band from Philly, Ekelin, you know those guys?
Yeah.
You know those guys, Freddie?
Yeah, they were kind of like a prog folk band.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, they were kind of like a lighter version of Dream Theater, not quite as, concert intensity, but very good. And so, Michael was always finding people from kind of off the beaten path. There was Ekelin, and then there was John, who I always thought was just supremely talented.
Yeah. He had a thing.
Yeah, I mean, he's a beautiful singer, beautiful player.
Yeah.
And he was there, and I'm thinking, okay, let me call Davey and find out if this is okay, what he's doing, Because, at that point, he was in a development deal.
Yeah.
Did he ever actually do a physical record?
He did something with Ed Stasium.
Exactly.
But I don't think it ever, I think that was another thing that knocked him for a loop. They never released it. And John wasn't, I think maybe the biz side of it, he could have been a little more on top of it, but some happened. They didn't release it. And he made a record. I wish, Ed's great, but I think that, I wish he would have worked with you, because I think you would have done things that would have made
I understood Philly.
Yes, you did.
Right.
You did.
And that's a very specific thing. It's not like Brooklyn. It's not like Long Island.
Right.
Philly's its own thing.
Yeah.
And he really, it's kind of like Springsteen. He likes people from that Asbury Park, that area.
Yeah.
And so he's got a whole band of them,
Yeah.
And John, I think, needed that. He wasn't somebody. I wasn't like that, but he was, and I was sensitive to that. Yeah. And I would have loved to work with him.
I would have been great. But you've always so I'm gonna toggle a little forward. You did Dream Theater, and I don't know, since I think we're not gonna be able to play the whole track. And I don't know if Jimmy, if you sent a Dream Theater track, right? David, did you?
That's right. Yeah. Somebody remastered it on YouTube.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Because let me tell you something you don't know is we were doing, when I first went over there to CBS, Sony, it was Epic. CDs were just starting to come into play.
Right.
And so like now you can go to a computer, you can go to an Ultra Maximizer or something on Pro Tools and hit a button, and it'll increase your headroom and make the CDs or the cassettes so loud.
Yeah.
Well, back then we had to make records, and you couldn't do that with records. So there was no pushing the headroom with digital because it was in its infancy at that point. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
And so when you go back and you listen to the Dream Theater record, Images and Words, and it's a beautiful sounding record, but if you're listening at home, you can turn it up.
Yeah.
But if you're listening to it in like a stream of modern things, like here's Lamb of God, here's Five Finger, here's Papa Rose, blah, blah, blah. Those are current records and they're loud. They're just, sometimes to the point of being offensive.
You do, well, I know. I was wondering how you feel, because mastering, I have these conversations with Phil Nicola about mastering, and some guys, like, they make records and there's no, it's like everything's squished.
Well, let me tell you,
you're going crazy with it,
What happened is this guy remastered it. So now if you listen to Dream Theater, like there was one time in Houston, a guy said, anything you do on here? And I said, yeah. And so I went over, and it was one of these internet jukeboxes to where you could type in what you wanted and it would find it on the internet and play it.
Yeah.
Our record, the Images and Words, is so quiet.
Oh,
I mean, it sounds anemic. Of course, you go turn it up and it's like, wow. Different.
Yeah.
So this guy made it to where it's loud and clear. So that's the one I sent you.
Yeah.
Cool.
When you cut those tracks, did you have the band, like, did you bring the band in, did they record it, or did you, because I know you always had different, you were like a scientist, producer, also knew like a great baseball manager, you knew the personalities.
Have to know the personalities.
How did you, your method, if you don't mind sharing a little bit of that, what did you do?
That was like herding cats. That's not quite accurate. It was more like trying to corral a bunch of, Utah wild Mustang ponies, you know, because these guys wanted to run.
Yeah.
And I was going to let them run,
Yeah.
but you know, when you're making your record, it's really not about, hey, everybody get in the room, man. Let's do.
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
You listen to Def Leppard's Hysteria.
Yeah.
There wasn't anybody. Some people weren't even
Right.
in the compound, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, because there was constant overdubs and layering and
Yeah. Yeah.
60,000.
Yeah. There was never a doubt who was when you're producers, never a doubt who the boss is. You were the boss. This is the way
You have to do that.
Yes.
You know, I mean, and I went through some scary stuff,
Yeah.
you know, to where it was just intense.
Yeah.
But you just take a breath and keep going.
Yeah.
But you have to let them know
Yeah.
that, I won't stand for a mutiny. You know, and that happens.
Yeah.
I
I'm
think
sure.
that happened on their first record for Mechanic. Because, you know, and Terry Date engineered and produced it, and it sounded terrible. And Terry Date's a great producer, great engineer. And I think what it was, it's one of those things where the band comes in and says, oh, can you run that back? Oh man, my E string's flat on there. Here, let me get my guitar. No, we're done. You know, and I think whoops, what did I do?
You're good.
No,
I
you're
was, you had to make sure that, that everybody knew what their limits were. They could go up to this point, but not that. You know, and obviously Michael had a very strong opinion on that. And and Kevin, the singer, was brand new in the band, and the didn't like him. And I said, I'll tell you if he's a good singer. You sing? Can you sing? Shut up.
Yeah.
You know,
Freddie's Dave's a great singer too. He'll sing the harmonies. He'll like.
I sang all the harmonies with Kevin, and then his name is actually Kevin LeBrie, but there was two Kevins in the band. So he said, "What's your other name?" James. Right, you're James now.
Yeah.
Oh, anyway, Firehouse, I sang every single track.
Yeah.
On the first and the second one.
Yeah.
Glen Burtnik, I sang all of them, and on Diving for Pearls.
That's great. Great record. That was cool.
I played at one point, other than lead vocal, I played everything on some. You know, and I mean, some of the stuff is real easy. Yeah.
But you made it work. Hey, listen, Jimmy, do you have any Dream Theater? Could you have that queued up? Can we play a little bit of that? See?
There you go.
Here it is.
Wow. Hey, that makes you want to pick up a bayonet. You know, let's go to war. That makes you want to like, what the hell? I mean,
No, you're exactly right.
It does.
Baby, when I did that record, let me tell you something. I got cold chills singing.
I did too.
Nice.
I did too. I did. It was beautiful. I mean, I love hearing it now and going like, wow. And then I love that you produced it, man. I think that,
Well,
you know,
thanks.
freaking amazing.
The thing is, I knew. See, I turned the band down before because they were not very pleasant when I first met them.
Yeah.
And I thought, and that was to the A&R guy. They're like, "When are we going to do this? Are you going to sign this or what?"
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, you guys just got dropped. I'd be a little nicer to Derek Oliver if I were you. You know, so they got picked up again. I mean, they were orphaned, man. I mean, that was, you know, you guys know the business. I mean, once you're on a label and you get dropped, that label's usually that band is done.
Yeah.
So anyway, at one point, Derek called me in the summer of '91. He said, "David, you're going to do the record. There's nothing you can do about it. You have to do it." And I'm thinking, okay, you know, I've never had a record company be that blunt like, "We want you," and I'm not hearing it. Normally it's like, "I don't know if we want you, convince me."
Yeah, you're right.
So anyway, you know, I went out and did a one very informal recording at the rehearsal place and kind of reintroduced myself. And then we went in like September 15th of '91. That thing is 19. Wait a minute. It's 22.
Yeah.
Is it not 40 years? It's almost, it's a little over, it's 31 years. 31
That's amazing. Amazing. Sounds
Yeah,
great.
we did it in '91.
Yeah.
And did it from December 15th into about December 11th, something like that. It was back when records took 2 months. That's the way every record I did was 2 months.
Yeah.
We were on time, on budget. And, you know, I ran it was a streamlined operation.
Yeah.
But we did it at Fair Tracks, you know, which is no longer there. A hedge fund guy came
what studio was it? What did you do?
Fair Tracks.
Oh, Bear Tracks.
Bearsville.
Yeah, Bear Tracks.
Right.
Yeah, it wasn't Todd Rundgren's place.
Yeah,
It was Spyro Gyra's, Jay Beckinsale. It was his place.
Yeah.
So
and you
anyway,
knew all those studios. You knew all the places.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Let me tell you this. This is interesting, though, because I knew when I did that record, I said, I was seeing a girl at the time, and she would come up, and I was just talking to her, and I said, this is preordained. I don't know what's going on. I don't even feel like my feet are touching the ground, because I knew, you know, that I had done some what I thought was really good work, but you know, that was right as Firehouse, Love of a Lifetime, and all that was starting to take off. But see, I was always in the studio. I never heard any of my stuff on the radio ever.
Really?
No.
Wow.
No. And so I didn't know. The guy at Atlantic said, you know, you've got a huge hit in your hand. And I said, really? Come on.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, I thought it'd be like a mainstream college Heat Seekers or something. No, it's on the top 100.
You mean the Firehouse or the Dream Theater? The Dream Theater.
Firehouse.
Firehouse was exploding. I remember that. I remember.
Huge. So anyway, I knew that I would never have a chance to fulfill whatever my destiny, you know, contained within. I knew that if I didn't, I mean, here were the best players you could ever ask for.
Yeah.
I mean, Mike, Kevin, John Petrucci.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and everybody was like a circus ventriloquist. I mean, they were like contortionists, you know.
Yeah.
They could just do incredible stuff. Yeah. And so I said, okay, I'm going to swing as hard as I can first pitch.
Yeah.
And I didn't let up. I kept my foot on the pedal for 2 months. And I just knew that if I was ever going to make a name for myself, this has to be it.
Yeah.
Because the other bands, I mean, Firehouse, as good as they are, and they're a great live band.
Right.
But you know, they're like a machine.
Yeah,
I mean, still playing the first 2 records.
Yeah,
you know, 30 some odd years later. But
I mean, there's a hell of a legacy with that. But you know, the Dream Theater thing, like I said, kids, like they all try to they want to be, you know, their goal is like, how do I get to be that good as a player? And they hear the records and stuff.
Well, check this out. So we're finishing the Dream Theater. I go to Florida and just sit in the hotel room for 5 days before I started the next Firehouse, because they were coming off that record, and then I'm doing this Dream Theater, and I thought, Dream Theater, that's a really great record, but it's not going to go anywhere. Come on, give me the Eggs with a vocalist. No, you know. So anyway, then there's the American Music Awards.
Yeah.
And we're in the studio.
Yeah.
And they win, you know, Band of the Year, Best New Rock Band or something against Soundgarden.
Yeah.
Nirvana and Pearl Jam. I mean, it was
crazy.
So at that point, I did the first Firehouse, which is already platinum and going, and then I've done Dream Theater, and then I did the second Firehouse, and that went platinum. So right there in like a space of a year, I did 3 multi-platinum records in a row.
What year was that? What year was that?
What year?
90, 91, and 92.
Yeah, I remember. I ran. We played. I think I remember running into you in New York. We were playing somewhere near the seaside. Remember by the concerts he used to do about.
Oh yeah.
And I just felt like I didn't see you for a few years, and I ran into you, and things were like. You became like the producer. It was like, wow. And I couldn't have been happy for him, Fred. I remember seeing him. It was like he's like became it's like he moved from great, nothing wrong. Like drummer, great drummer doing things. But then it was like, he was running the show, and it was real. And it was really cool to see like a friend do what he did and did not compromise. That's what I loved about you, David. You did not compromise your thing. You said, you know, this is the way it's going to be if you want to work with me. And I love that about you, man.
Well, the thing that I got to tell you is that talking about the, oh God, I had my train of thought, and then it'll come back to me in a minute. Talking about the, oh yes, here it is. So one of the things, you know, you do your record nowadays is like, well, we think we're going to get Andy Wallace to mix it. I think.
Yeah, I know Andy. I work with Andy. I know Andy.
Right, or we're gonna get CLA, Chrysler Algae.
Okay, right.
And you know, and all of these guys, I mixed personally with my own fingers.
Yeah.
All the singles.
Yeah.
You know, Love of a Lifetime. All of that. We finished the record. Then I started mixing.
So you were doing that. What about automation? Even back then, you watched automation because you had like guys that have hands. I need guys to come in. You were doing like automation and stuff like that. You when you were doing mix, you had to borrow hands from people, push that fader up, or were you? How were you doing?
Yeah, if you're in that room, you're working.
Yeah,
you're not observing. You know,
you're not just hanging out.
No,
push that fader up when I say no.
Well, you know, because you know what it's like. It's like you know, you've played sports, you've played basketball. There's a point where the momentum's building. And you want your best players. Let's go. You know, you don't want to like let's take a timeout. I'm kind of wounded. You know, no.
Yeah, it must be so exciting doing like that's one of my great disappointments. I would have loved to have done a record with him. Because he just, I know. I got some things in mind. Hey, so I got it because we're running behind, and I got to talk about, you know, the band. Walk into a place, and it's like you walk in with these guys, and everybody goes, "Who the hell are these guys?" The Texas Hippie Coalition.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Prater told me about now. Before Prater, I even knew David was working with this band. I saw this band on TV on Jerry Springer.
Yes. And I was there mixing that.
You were doing that? Mm-hmm. And it was like, oh my God. It was like, first of all, we remember Leslie West in his heyday. Yeah. Like where he he looked pretty scary.
He looked like a midget compared
to let me tell you, all these guys look like it was like a band of Leslie West that looked like they were gonna like biker dudes.
It looked like everybody about half the band's on parole. The other guys are trying to be able to cross the state line to do a gig. You know,
Prater's their boss. Prater's the producer. He's the man.
What's the name of this group? Who is it?
Texas Hippie Coalition.
I'll have to check them out. I've never heard of them.
You play No Shame. Yeah. Can you see the video too?
Yeah. I don't know. Can you? We'll put it on. I think we can do the video. We'll go on, but play a little. Play.
The whole song shows them on the street at the shows, at the NAMM shows. So it's just like somebody's running around with a camera. Yeah. And then they edited all that together. So it's a great way to see what they're about.
Yeah. Hey, Jim, can we run a Texas Hippie Coalition? No shame.
I love the name.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, let me. Texas Hippie Coalition is THC. You started at the top again, so you can hear that drum fill.
Jimmy, go back. You can start it. You can start from the top.
Yeah, turn it up.
Yeah.
Cowboy, baby.
Cowboy. Woo! I feel like jumping on a motorcycle.
There you go.
Awesome.
So you're not watching the video, though, are you?
No, we're gonna watch.
Oh.
We're gonna get the video on
it. Sense until you see the video.
We're gonna put the video on. We'll get it on there so they can see.
On the page.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh, that's rocking, man.
Oh, it is. Well, let me tell you this.
I just would love to see you producing this. You in that room.
Oh my God.
You know where I did that?
Yeah.
I did it in a 10 by 12 room in Denison, Texas, next to the Eisenhower Museum.
Yeah.
And it's a little pier and beam, dinky ass house, probably built in the 30s or 40s. I recorded the whole band there.
Yeah.
And did all the overdubs at my house in Salado in my upstairs attic.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
literally, I didn't do it in the studio. I had a 2480 Roland. Do you know what that is? Fred, do you know anything about the Roland?
Yeah, I have a set of Rollins.
Well, the
CD4.
2480 was a 24-track multi-track machine that they made. It was digital,
right.
all digital. And I just got really good at it with that machine, to the point to where, I mean, tell me if the sound of that is any less than working in Los Angeles.
Not at all. Not at all. I was going to say that drum sound is spectacular.
You know what the drum sound is for the most part?
What is it?
That's an Elysis DM5 kick and snare.
I got him in my garage. I got a kid. I wore the snare out.
I redid the kick drum because he didn't hit very consistent.
Yeah.
But I'd kind of blend things in. So you would hear all the velocity and sensitivity. It doesn't sound like just one shot sample.
No, man, you hit.
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, just amazing. And listen, I got to tell you, and I remember seeing, I don't know what it was. I think the TV was on, and I walked by, and Jerry Springer just happened to going through, and I saw this thing. I said, "Whoa, stop whatever you're doing and watch this," because it just seemed like, what the hell? It's like these guys took over the show.
Let me tell you something.
It was wild.
When we first started, when we did that record in 2008 and released it. Now check this out to show you how long ago it was. The only way we could tell how we were doing was MySpace.
MySpace.
And they used to have something like, there was some count.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, views or something. Yeah. And so you knew, depending on what your number was, how many people were watching it and how it's selling.
Right.
So what happened, as soon as we went on Jerry Springer, the reason we were on there is because all these SWAT teams and police departments in the United States, they're all in touch with each other. And a lot of those guys like to pump iron and do Brazilian jiu-jitsu and all that stuff. And steroids, they juice, let's be honest.
Yeah.
So anyway, the guy in Chicago that had been Big Steve's understudy, he's now in control of the show. He loves Texas Hippie Coalition. So the police department asked us to come up there and do the thing on Jerry Springer. And they said, "Would you like to do it?" And I said, "You tell him, hell yeah." That is
man,
that is our audience.
Dude.
So
Wow.
anyway, that was a fantastic experience.
So Prater, we're gonna have to do a series of podcasts with you.
Totally.
I mean, because one, this is just so much fun to hang with you, see you. I love you, man. I do. I love you.
Oh God, you know how I am.
We were talking.
I'll do anything for you.
And Mike, the audience doesn't know. I went through a bad time. We were talking about for sure. And everybody has their moments, but I remember I had the drug thing, and Prater was so supportive. He went with me, and he was just my friend. He loved me like a brother, and I'm just so proud of what he's doing and all this stuff. And listen, real quickly, why Colorado, man?
Well, we're not getting any younger.
No,
and there's a point to where, first of all, Texas. When I moved back to Texas, there was some reasons for that. I got married and found a wonderful woman. Yes, honey, I'm talking about you. So anyway, she got me into Colorado in the late 90s, and we're at a part that not many people know about. I mean,
where are you?
Southwest corner. We're in the San Juan Mountains. We're up the road from Durango.
Yeah.
Okay. It's still ringing the bell, but it's an interesting story, but it's not a short one. But as far as Colorado, the country's getting insanely hot. Yeah. Most of the country's hot in the summer. And in Texas, you'll have like 2 or 3 months of well over 100 degrees.
Yeah, it's not.
I took a thermometer one day. I was out fixing a sprinkler head, and it said 125.
Yeah.
Wow. So in Colorado, it never gets above maybe an 80 here.
Right.
And it's dry, so you don't feel the cold, the chill never gets into your bone like it can, in the East Coast.
Oh, yeah.
It's up here because, now, I mean, I'm in my house right now, I've got GigaNet, it's fast. We have fiber optic come in.
Oh, good.
Months ago.
I know you had some issues there earlier on that. Now you're cooking.
Well, I had been on them, I said, when are you going to put that in? And they say, well, we can't until the spring. The ground's frozen.
Right.
Hey, you get that fixed or I'm coming over there.
Well, I was pleasant and tried to be charming with them, but I needed it,
I know you do.
Oh, God, I did that again. Oh, God, look at me. What the hell?
No worries.
No,
hey, listen. We're going to bring you back because there's some stuff we didn't talk about, and it was a total pleasure for Freddie and I. Loved having you on here. You look great.
Thank you.
I know we all have mutual friends. I'll say hey to everybody. I talked to Eric this morning because he came out to the show last night. He said to say hey. There was a bunch of Swedish guys.
How's he doing?
He's doing great.
Okay.
Doing great.
I told you about my wife. She got Ramsey Hunt syndrome.
We all, you get older, and it's not for getting
it's not
older.
For the faint of heart.
No,
not for whips.
Prater, real quick. You had a double hip replacement, right?
I just had double spinal fusion.
Oh my God. Prater says to me, I told him because I was his hip sponsor. I had my one hip done.
I remember.
So he called me up and we talk about it, and he goes, Davey, I'm going to get them both done.
What happened is the first one was right when I was coming to Colorado. So I got the first one done, and it was great. I mean, I was standing up an hour after I got it.
I remember that.
Then 2 years later, almost to the day, my left one goes out. And so I thought, well, I'll go in with the same guy. Well, he retired. So there was this young guy, like 35 years old. And what happens, and you've got to be real careful with this. I've learned so much about it. Is that you've got all your nerves coming out of your spine.
Tell me about it.
And you have to be very careful. Some surgeons are like, a nerve, whatever. But that's if your nerves are irritated or inflamed because of some sort of a, asymmetry in the way it was all, the operation was done. Well, that's what happened with me. And for a year, it was getting worse the farther I got. And so I finally, the guy that I was, I told him, I want you to take this shit out. This is horrible. And he said, you know what I think it is, Mr. Prater? And I said, I'm a captive audience. What? nerve damage.
Oh,
And I said, now you're talking, because rehabbing didn't help it. So I found a doctor, and he said, I looked at your x-rays and your MRI, and he said, let me ask you one question. What's that? How do you deal with the pain? And I said, well, I've had it so long, I've just kind of gotten used to it. You think you can do something about it? Let's go. So he did the same operation on me, but he did basically 2 of them, Tiger Woods. So when he had the same thing, he had nerve pain, and there were times that I saw him playing and he collapsed on the course. Metabolic things, but just because it hurt to swing it.
Right.
It's the same thing. It was spinal fusion, but they're much better now.
And you're feeling better now.
Oh yeah,
I love it.
Awesome.
All right, so I'll give you a shout. We're gonna bring you back
anytime
after 2020 and then 2023. David, it was wonderful chatting with you.
Did you listen to the Prodigy from the Baby Grand demos from?
I got them. I got a bunch of stuff, but I'm going to check all that stuff. I'm going to be listening to all, and I got to talk to you about this Yes package I got from Larry Maggot. That's unbelievable. That you will really love. Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff going on.
Let me tell you, I am so proud of you. You have ramped up when you got together with Dally, my wife, Davey, Dally. I mean, that was your rocket ship. You guys just went, you ready? Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. She kicks ass, and she's beautiful to beat. So I eat good. We hang out. She's my rock. So it's good stuff. We're all lucky men.
Yeah, we are.
We got beautiful. Freddie's the same way with his wife. So we got good stuff going on, and without that, you got nothing. So anyway, listen.
You got problems.
Yeah, you got problems.
Exactly. Certainly makes it better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So listen,
anytime you need me, I'll do.
I know.
You know me. I'll do whatever you need.
I know you do, man. I know, and it's great. Yeah. So listen, I want to thank our sponsors. I want to thank Wildflower Media, Podcasting, Jim, Rich. Thanks for everything. We'll see you again back here on In the Pocket. Catch you later, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.